The story begins in a small town in Texas, where everyone was living their normal lives. However, suddenly in the forest area, something falls from the sky, resembling an asteroid with a small size. It wasn't noticeable at first, but it directly crashed into the forest, causing a small blast. We are shown a dirt road where something emerges from the ground. What it was and what it intended to do is unclear, but it was clearly visible that it looked like an alien from another civilization who had either accidentally or intentionally landed on Earth. Whether this will turn out to be good or bad for humans will soon be revealed. We are introduced to a man named Brat, who lives in that area. Brat was very rich, with a lot of money, but he was significantly older than most people. Despite all this, Brat married a young woman named Starla. It was evident that Starla was a gold digger, marrying Brat solely for his wealth. She even had a boyfriend, but she had not yet informed Brat about it. Their personal life was going smoothly until one day, a small argument erupted between them. Brat and Starla began shouting at each other. In the heat of the moment, Brat leaves and ends up dating several women. During this, he meets a girl named Branda. After sharing many things, the two become attracted to each other. Later, after drinking, Brat takes Branda to the same forest area where the meteorite fell. They seemed very drawn to each other and were getting closer, but suddenly Brat notices that the area near the meteorite is somewhat destroyed. Feeling uneasy, Brat turns his attention away from Branda and approaches the meteorite. He sees something slimy material emerging from the meteorite. Now, what was this? To learn more about Brat, he used a wooden stick to touch the material. Suddenly, the slime material began moving, and a small, sharp object emerged from it. In the next moment, the slime material shot a sharp object directly at Brat's chest. The pointed object pierced straight into Brat's body. After the attack, Brat became extremely weak and collapsed to the ground. Branda was stunned, as she was standing right beside him, trying to help. However, Brat started writhing in intense pain, as if his body was undergoing some changes. We are then shown a thermal scene where the unknown entity that entered Brat's body travels throughout his body, moving toward his mind. Instantly, it reaches Brat's brain. After several minutes of intense pain, when Branda touches him, Brat regains consciousness, with blood pouring from his nose and mouth. Brat grabs Branda's hand and silently walks away. Branda assumes he might have consumed too much alcohol and leaves for her home without following him. Brat doesn't seem to understand what is happening, and he goes home, falling asleep. He feels changes in different parts of his body, but what exactly is happening will be revealed soon. Brat's behavior has drastically changed, as he starts gathering a large amount of meat at a supermarket. What he plans to do with all that meat will soon become evident. A few days pass by, and Starla begins to realize her mistake. She apologizes to Brat, and both reconcile, deciding to live together again. However, Starla has no idea what changes are taking place in Brat's body. Brat becomes increasingly aggressive, and in the basement, he creates a nest, similar to what an animal would do to seek warmth. His behavior becomes very aggressive, and he eventually kills his own dog, hiding in the basement. Strange, grotesque marks appear all over Brat's body, solely due to the dangerous alien that has transferred itself into his body. Brat's mental state continues to deteriorate due to these changes. He begins to feel the urge to affect his wife, Starla, as well. However, it is not Brat's own mind speaking, but rather the alien presence inside him influencing his thoughts. We then see two strange tentacles emerging from Brat's body, mutating him into a dangerous form, indicating that the alien is fully taking over. Eventually, Brat moves toward his wife, intending to harm her. However, he suddenly remembers that Starla is his wife, and no matter what happens, he won't hurt her. Disturbed, Brat quickly leaves and heads to Branda's house. Branda is a married woman with a child, and her husband is away at work. She decides to spend some time with Brat for fun. Without much thought, Brat approaches Branda, and as she closes her eyes, Brat extracts his two deadly tentacles from his body. The tentacles begin tearing into Branda's body, and she screams continuously for help. No one comes to her aid. Brat proceeds to alter and insert something into Branda's body. The scene is horrifying to witness, but the alien inside Brat does not kill her. Instead, it takes her alive. After this, Brat's appearance changes drastically, he no longer looks recognizable. When he goes to Starla in this state, she is shocked and asks, "What happened to you? You need to see a doctor." However, Brat lies to her, saying he's bringing medication and that things will be fine soon. Starla, believing it to be the result of something supernatural, thinks it's the work of bees, but it has made Brat look worse. The next day, news spreads of numerous dogs disappearing from the city. They are being abducted, and no one knows by whom. Numerous complaints are being filed against Brat for his actions, and the police begin investigating. It is revealed that Brad is responsible for abducting people, including Branda. Brad is gathering large amounts of meat and animal carcasses, which he is taking to his basement. It is discovered that Brad had influenced Branda with his alien tentacles. These tentacles inserted something into her body, causing an alien egg to develop inside her, which will gradually grow. To facilitate this growth, Branda needs to consume an enormous amount of food, specifically meat. Thus, Brad is hoarding vast quantities of meat because Branda, who is now confined in the basement, requires it. Over time, Branda's size continues to expand uncontrollably, and she no longer remains human. Her body now contains alien DNA, transforming her into a hybrid alien. Meanwhile, several police officers are seen conducting investigations into this case. They learn that Branda has gone missing from her home, and their search leads them directly to Brat's house. Starla, unaware of Brat's true nature and the grave danger she is in, starts talking to the police officers. When questioned about Brat, she provides calm and composed answers, not realizing that she is unknowingly sharing her life with a dangerous alien. After failing to gather sufficient information, the police leave the scene. However, Starla, oblivious to the reality, is still with Brat, whose appearance has drastically deteriorated. He no longer looks human at all, and this state terrifies Starla. Overwhelmed by fear, she pulls out her phone and attempts to call the police again. Brat, sensing her distress, watches her actions closely. Brat smashes a window and directly attacks Starla. He accuses her, saying that perhaps she betrayed him. He had trusted her completely and tried to clear everything, but in his anger, he brutally grabs Starla. Fortunately, several police officers arrive on the scene. They immediately point their guns at Brat, but what they witness is shocking. Brat begins to transform into a slime-like material, shifting his body into an entirely different form. He effortlessly grabs the guns from the officers and throws them away, escaping by deceiving them and running far away. The officers are stunned, unable to comprehend what they just witnessed. This thing definitely isn't human. Officer Ben, who witnessed the entire incident, becomes deeply invested in the case. After learning of this, the mayor instructs Ben to solve the case as soon as possible, warning that if not, all blame will fall on him. Ben, along with his team, starts a thorough investigation. They quickly realize that Brat is at the core of all the chaos. They begin piecing together the sequence of attacks that have happened in the area. Soon, Brat communicates with his companions, revealing that the next target might be a house where a man named Reese lives with his wife and daughters. One of his daughters, named Kale, is exceptionally beautiful. She is deeply involved in research and works with one of her friends. Together, they decide to confront Brat directly at his residence to catch him red-handed. Ben and his friend spend the night near Reese's house, maintaining surveillance. The entire police force waits for hours, anticipating Brat's arrival to launch an attack so they can catch him in the act. Finally, after a long wait, their patience pays off as Brat enters the house, an entity far from human. Brat has fully mutated, with multiple tentacles emerging from his body at various points, all sharp and pointed. The police inspectors present are terrified as they cautiously approach him. Brat suddenly spots a cow and swiftly uses his tentacle to kill it. He then begins to consume the dead animal's body, carrying some of the meat with him. Ben and his team arrive just in time and aim their guns at Brat. However, Brat shows no fear. He swiftly targets an inspector standing nearby, striking him with a tentacle so sharp that the inspector's body is split in two, leading to his gruesome death. Ben immediately orders his team to open fire, and they shoot at Brat, but he quickly retreats into the forest, knowing he will be overpowered. Brat runs toward an old farmhouse deep in the woods. Ben and his team follow closely behind, but when they enter the farmhouse, they are shocked by what they see. Branda is there, and her size has significantly increased due to the massive amount of meat she consumed. Inside her body, numerous alien eggs are developing. These she has been nurturing to create more of her kind. Despite eating vast quantities of meat, Branda's hunger remains insatiable, and she screams for more. Suddenly, her entire abdomen bursts open, releasing hundreds of small alien creatures. These creatures, each seemingly countless, invade the mouths of nearby humans, spreading their infection rapidly. The terrifying sight leaves the police and Ben in shock, unable to process what they are witnessing. As the small alien creatures spread rapidly, controlling more and more people, the situation becomes dire. Brat, now fully under the influence of the alien parasite, continues to spread the infection. His influence grows stronger, as he begins to control not only individuals but entire groups. Ben and his remaining team work tirelessly to find a way to stop the spread. They realize that simply sealing their mouths won't be enough to prevent the aliens from entering. These creatures quickly find alternative ways, invading through other bodily openings. Meanwhile, the alien-controlled individuals begin to take drastic actions. In one house, a family man named Yuri experiences an alien invasion of his home. One by one, the creatures attack, taking control of his family members. When a small alien tries to invade Yuri's daughter, Kelly, she fights back fiercely. Despite the alien's attempts, Kelly manages to keep it out, sensing its true intentions through a disturbing vision. In her vision, Kelly witnesses the true purpose of the aliens, to dominate and control every living being on Earth. These creatures have come to Earth to establish their civilization, wiping out humanity in the process. Over time, as they continue to mutate within human bodies, their numbers grow exponentially, leaving no room for human survival. Kelly manages to escape, witnessing the horrifying fate of her family members as they are overtaken by the alien presence. Screaming and panicking, she runs to her car, seeking refuge. However, it becomes clear that the battle is far from over, as these relentless creatures continue to spread across the planet. But the shocking part was that Callie's family, into whom the aliens had infiltrated, were being controlled by them, making it difficult for them to recognize Callie as their daughter. They were acting like zombies, trying to break into her car and attack her. Callie couldn't figure out how to escape because if she stepped outside, they would devour her alive. However, the good news was that Inspector Ben had arrived after hearing the noise. Inspector Ben distracted all the zombies, allowing Callie to escape and come directly to him. Ben took Callie to a safe place, where everyone who was affected was turning into zombies and relentlessly pursuing and attacking the good people. The main leader of all these baby aliens was the same alien that was in Brad's mind. This alien was guiding and commanding them on what to do. Alongside Callie in a car was Starla, and the remaining survivors gathered together to protect each other. Ben was struggling to understand how to defeat these alien life forms because their numbers were immense, and it appeared they would only continue to grow. He couldn't trust anyone because they could easily become infected. Starla also began to realize that Brad had been the first to get infected. Hence, Starla shared this information with Ben and the others, suggesting that if they managed to eliminate Brad, perhaps they could solve the problem. Given that Brad was the first to exhibit alien symptoms, he could be the leader. Starla's deduction proved accurate, and Ben began to take it more seriously. Callie, too, joined their mission to take down Brad. Ben had made up his mind to eliminate Brad no matter the cost. Brad had grown even larger and more dangerous, continuing to spread his control over everyone he encountered. He absorbs them into his body, making his tentacles grow so large that he can kill anyone instantly. However, it became evident that no matter how monstrous Brad had become, he still loved his wife, Starla, deeply and wanted her to be with him. Brad manipulated many people into abducting Starla and bringing her to him. While Ben and his friends were advancing in their car, suddenly, they had a car accident. The cause of the accident was none other than the zombies manipulated by Brad, who were instructed to capture Starla. They didn't harm anyone else, only Starla was taken away. Starla was dazed, not knowing what was happening to her. These zombies, following Brad's orders, brought her to a room and began cleansing her completely. It seemed that, despite turning into a dangerous alien, Brad still wanted to enjoy a date with Starla. After several hours, when Starla opened her eyes, she found herself back in her home. Her clothes had changed on their own, and she felt refreshed. Starla was terrified and quickly descended downstairs because she heard voices. What she saw left her shocked. Brad had grown immensely large, having absorbed numerous humans into his body. He attached himself to anyone he could capture, further increasing his size and strength. Brad was now calling Starla to his side, wanting her to join him and become a part of his body. Starla, seeing his monstrous size, took a sharp weapon for protection, intending to use it if trouble arose. She began to believe that with this weapon, she could potentially defeat Brad. She deliberately hid the weapon and walked toward Brad, telling him, "I am with you now. I will never leave you." Brad became emotional and extended his tentacles, wrapping Starla tightly from all sides. However, he didn't harm her, keeping her close without realizing she had a sharp weapon hidden. Starla then saw pictures of her and Brad on the wall, feeling a deep longing for the past, but regretting that Brad could no longer be saved. His body had been overtaken by those alien species. Suddenly, in the next moment, Starla drew the sharp weapon and started stabbing Brad's body. Unfortunately, it didn't do much damage because Brad had become immensely powerful, his cells reinforced through consuming so many lives. Enraged, Brad grabbed Starla and forcefully threw her away, advancing to kill her. Starla screamed loudly, attracting Ben and others who quickly rushed to her aid. Ben, along with Callie, started firing at Brad, but Brad's massive tentacles made it impossible for anyone to stand against him. He attacked everyone, causing them to collapse to the ground. Ben sustained severe injuries, but without wasting any time, Brad extended 2 sharp tentacles, one of which pierced straight into Ben's body. However, Ben managed to catch the second tentacle with his hands. This alien virus required both tentacles to simultaneously penetrate the body. Ben fought for his life as once the virus entered, there would be no turning back. Suddenly, Ben spotted a gas cylinder nearby. He swiftly inserted an alien tentacle into the valve of the gas cylinder, causing flammable gases to seep into Brad's body. Gradually, the gases accumulated inside Brad's body. Ben silently signaled Starla about the plan. Understanding, Starla picked up Ben's gun and aimed it directly at Brad's weakened form. She fires directly at Brad, and the reaction causes a massive explosion. Brad's dangerous body begins to completely disintegrate, and in no time, the entire farmhouse bursts into flames, turning to ash. Ben manages to get Starla out safely, taking the surviving people to a secure place. With the death of the leader alien, all the small, parasite-like aliens inside humans begin to deactivate. All infected people return to normal, though many lives had already been lost. Half of the people perished, but if this wasn't done, all humans would have fallen under the control of the aliens. Tough calls sometimes need to be made to save an entire civilization. And our deadly story ends here.